everyone. Welcome to our first ever Wholeness at Work webinar. I'm very excited to be here today on a Thursday morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm very excited to kick off this first ever session about how to embark on an unconventional career path. We've seen with COVID, things don't go according to plan. So, what happens when we are thrown into crisis? What happens when we're thrown into crisis is that we suddenly start assessing what life is really about, what's really important to us. And it gives us an opportunity to think about what do I want to do with my life? And so that's really what I want to get into today. We have a lot to get through because there's a lot I want to share with everybody today. And so it's not just my journey that I'm wanting to share, but also other people that we've walked together along this pathway. And so you'll also get a chance to hear from their experiences and learn from their experiences as well. So, exploring unconventional pathways. You are all here today because there's something about your current pathway that doesn't seem right. You feel stuck, perhaps. You feel frustrated. You're wondering, what is the next step? How can I move forward? So that's what we want to cover today. And in this session, we're going to look at just what are some secrets that you can learn that you can apply in your own life. So, a bit about me, Sheryl Bernardi. If you don't know me personally, I've had 15 job titles. I've worked in 8 different industries, and I'm now currently in my 3rd career. So for a long time, I felt like I was weird because I would often just have a job for about 2 years in a specific role, and then I would want something new. And people would often ask me, "What's wrong with you?" because I got bored and I just wanted to keep learning and keep growing. And so now when I look back, I realize, well, this has actually been awesome because now I can share my experience of how to transition not just from one job to another or one industry to another, but also from one career to another career. And something I've learned in my time working in journalism, communication, publishing, fundraising, different things, is that we actually all have this treasure inside of us. There is an innate gift and ability in you. And so, how do we unpack that? So that's what we're going to be looking at today. What is the treasure inside of you? And so, like I said to you, I'm not the only one on this call today. I did have some interviews with these awesome South Africans last week, and I got some of the insights. Their full videos is available on our YouTube channel, but I've taken out some of the gems that pertain to specifically the session today. But there is a full video available on our website. So we're going to be hearing from Wendy van Eck. She's someone that I met many years ago, and we've since grown our relationship over the past 2-3 years. And she's someone that I seek to emulate. We often need someone that's just gone a bit further along the pathway than we have to tell us, it's okay, there's still a road here, you can come this way. Often we just need one person when we are pioneering in our pathways. And then I'm also going to be showcasing some of the work that Tin and Sheldon do. They are some young guys that I met probably last year, and they've also kind of gone into their own career path, young entrepreneurs in South Africa, and connecting South African creators. So that's exciting. But I want to focus on you a bit in this first session. And I want you to understand this very, very important thing. There is treasure inside of you. I know when we come out into the workplace, we often don't feel like we have something valuable to offer. We go into job roles and work environments where it can be very challenging, and we can forget that, hey, I have something of value to offer the world. So that's something I just want to remind you about today, in case you've forgotten. There's treasure inside of you. Number 2, even though it doesn't look this way often, there are more opportunities than there are obstacles. I know it seems weird right now to say that, but it's true. There are more opportunities than obstacles. You just have to know where to look. And often it's being inspired by someone else's journey that helps us to see things we couldn't see before. Okay, so we want to help you address some of those blind spots today. And the third thing I want to share with you today is that meaningful work takes time and intention. So to find meaning in your work, to find your professional sweet spot, to find the thing that makes you come alive and to be able to do that every single day, it takes time and intention. And your 20s, if you're watching this right now and you're just starting out on your journey, your 20s is really to help you to understand, who am I? what do I really want to do? Because often we start out working for other people. We start working because we thought this is what I should be doing. I should get into this. And then we have to learn how to personalize work for ourselves. So, what are the emerging pathways into the new world of work? The world is very different from when our parents finished high school and went into the world of work. This was the conventional pathway that everybody has heard about and told that this is how you should do it. You're told to do well at school, go to university, get a job. Once you get a job, you have to get promoted. Then you have to buy a car, you have to buy a house. Most likely, they have societal pressures to get married, to have children. And that often means that because you're trying to keep up to a system, you get into debt. And sadly, millions of people around the world are living in a financial crisis because we think that debt is normal. And then what else do? We just keep getting promoted, keep doing the next thing. But there's something inside of us that we that still kind of yearns for fulfillment. We want our work to mean something, right? But sometimes we don't get there, and then we end up retiring and thinking, well, this is the end of my work journey. But the sad reality is that only 6% of South Africans can actually retire comfortably. And I've seen some people who've gone into retirement, and once work is taken away, they don't have meaning. They don't know what their lives were about. So I think a lot of young people are seeing this pathway and thinking, I see this road. I don't want to go down this road because I see where it's ending up and I want to find something more meaningful. And we see that even before the global pandemic, the system was broken. 85% of the global workforce, so it's not just you, was disengaged and frustrated in their jobs. Something was missing even before the global pandemic happened. So, what are these new pathways that are opening up? Things are shifting, things are changing. Sometimes it can be very, very scary. So, I'm going to try and get to the next page. There we go. So, what are these emerging pathways? They are work that's unconventional. And the good news is that you can actually be more in control of your pathway than ever before. This can be an increase in anxiety because you're not sure which way to go. Okay. But if you start paying attention, you'll start seeing that there's people talking about this. There are people sharing their perspectives, sharing their experiences. And so, what our parents used to tell us was find a single path, figure out what you want to do with your life, and then do that until you die. So, it is essentially become a jack of, if you are a jack of all trades, you're a master of none. I'm sure you've heard that expression at some point in your life. But now what's happening in the real world is that there's more of a shift towards building a portfolio career. So what is a portfolio career? It just means that you have multiple skill sets. So you don't just do one thing. You have multiple trade skills, and then you can actually package those and sell them to an employer or a client or kind of get contract work. So there's different ways to actually market your value in the new world of work. So how do we do that? If we don't get a formal job, a formal full-time permanent job, a lot of people are doing gig work. So gig jobs are where people make extra money to do things on the weekends and it pays off their debt, and it helps them to be less dependent on full-time employment. Some of you already have done this. You're contract workers. So some organizations can only take on contract work for specific tasks or specific projects. And so it's a short period of time where you're working and then you move on to the next contract. Some of you also could be freelancers or thinking about getting into freelance. And this is someone that has a skill, has a talent, has a craft, and then they outsource, they become freelancers for people who are outsourcing specific requirements, specific projects. Crowdsourcing, perhaps not something you have considered, but it involves obtaining work or options of work from a large group of people who submit their data via the internet. So perhaps if you're a graphic designer, you would register on a global platform and you would then pitch for work. So these are crowdsourced opportunities. So there are ways to still earn an income if you don't have a permanent job. And I love this quote by Joseph Campbell. We watched the video earlier about the hero's journey. Life doesn't go the way we planned. And if we don't expect life to be difficult and challenging, we can be very frustrated. So he says we must be willing to let go of the life we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. So being able to adjust to the realities, to the complexities, to the adversities means that you have to have a strength of character. And that is where we have to learn how to build our resilience. So our core beliefs about work, it really drives a lot of our behaviors at work. Our core beliefs about our identity drives how we approach work. And so this is a lot of the work that we do at Whole Person Academy, is to get people to investigate what's happening below the surface. Why do I feel the way I do in specific work environments? Why do I hate my current job? What do I really want to do with life? And do I have permission to do it? I think in a society like South Africa, where there's so much unemployment and so much challenges in the world of work, that we're grateful for any type of work, but we don't know that we have permission to actually seek out the things that are meaningful for us and to build and create value outside of the conventional pathway. So, what will people say about you when you die? We ask this question often in training sessions because we don't think that far ahead. We just kind of following the script, you're following the checklist. And often people don't ask us, well, what are you interested in? What do you want to do? What are you passionate about? How can you add value to the world? That's really, really important. At Whole Person Academy, we look at the Wholeness Triad. We call it the Wholeness Triad, where it's your career support, whatever's happening in the world of work, often can be traced down to how you feel about yourself and how you feel about others. So your relationships, career, and finances are all interconnected. The way that you manage your money is so important to the way that you show up in the workplace. If you are mismanaging your money, if you don't have a healthy relationship with money, it is going to show up and hamper your relationship with your colleagues and with your boss and with your clients. And this is something that we do not learn in universities. We don't learn this in our families or in society. But relationships and careers and money can't give us anything, really. We can only get out of relationships or careers or finances what we put inside of it. And so that's what we want to help you to understand, is that your personal development journey is so crucial to you creating this unconventional pathway. So, what does it take for you to become a worker for this new world? The great battle is to get your head and your heart to work together. We go to university and we're giving you these amazing skills on how to apply technical knowledge, but we neglect developing our hearts, our passions. And this is why we often have this fight between our heart and our mind, where the brain just wants to follow the path and the heart says, no, I'm going to rebel because I'm tired of you calling shots all the time. I think you can identify with this. There's often this battle between the head and the heart because we're not having that permission to create harmony in these areas. And so that's what Wholeness at Work is all about. That's why I'm passionate about this, because it took me many decades to learn the importance of allowing my heart and my head to work together and create meaningful, awesome work that actually has impact in the world. When we look at the critical skills needed for the new world of work, we're looking at a lot of it is actually based on no longer soft skills, but actually essential skills. So problem solving, creativity, communication, leadership, these are all things that you can learn from friends and family members, from your workplaces, but it's also something that you have to take ownership of, definitely. So we have to understand that a job is just an opportunity to apply your personal and professional skills, but the work that we do, the work that our life will count for, is the impact that only you can make on the world around you. So it's very, very important to make that distinction. So as you're listening to the interviews today, I want you to think about, who am I working for? Am I working for my family? Am I working for my boss to make her happy or him happy? Am I working for my family to make sure that there's food on the table? Those are all noble things. But also, how can I find out how to integrate who I am, what I do, what I love into my everyday life? This is something I live by. Work creates the opportunity to really know ourselves. So even if you're currently in a job that's very challenging, it can help to shape you and teach you things that you need for the next thing. Our personality, environment, experience, and attitude, as well as our learning agility, shapes who we become in the workplace. So once you've graduated, That's not when learning stops. It actually starts there. It starts at the graduation point. And becoming a continual learner, lifelong learner, is how you earn. You have to learn things, you have to unlearn things, you have to relearn things, and repeat that. That's just the way that the world is now. And if you stop learning, you're going to severely limit your work opportunities. We have to learn how to live in the growth zone, where we get out of the comfort zone, we push past our fear, we lead into the learning gap, and we keep growing, because that's the only way to be relevant. Instead of asking, what can I get? Whenever you take on a job, think about, who can I become in this role? What do I need to become so that I can actually achieve what I want to achieve in life? This is the hedgehog principle that you get from the book Good to Great. Think about, what are you deeply passionate about? What can you be the best in the world at? And how can I make money from this? This is the kind of process that we take you through at Whole Person Academy. We help you to figure out, what is my identity? What are my passions? What are my abilities? What are my dreams? And how can I figure out who I am, what is my purpose, and from there, be able to make healthier choices about the work that I take on. This is what I call the work vortex. Work is actually a multidimensional thing. It's like the word love. We use love for everything, but there's different expressions of work. There's work that you really struggle with. There's work that you enjoy doing. There's work that you tolerate. There's work that you hate. Okay, so it's good to learn how to sift that and to start figuring out, what is the work that I like to do, that I want to do, that people would pay me to be good at. And this is where resilience kicks in. Angela Duckworth says that enthusiasm is common, but endurance is rare. So my 5 keys about becoming a worker in the new world is, you have to learn how to solve problems. The more you can become a problem solver, the more you'll be sought after in the world of work. If you can lead courageously and humbly and serve people and help them to grow, you will be a sought after in the world of work. Cultivating wholeness. I think we've seen that now with the global pandemic. People working from home, having to integrate their personal and professional lives. This is something we had to do for a long, long time. Learning how to become a public person. Putting yourself in front of the camera, speaking, sharing your ideas, not being afraid to speak up. That's so crucial for the world of work. And most importantly, mastering your money. So many people in middle and upper income brackets are actually living paycheck to paycheck. They are drowning in debt. There's something wrong with that picture, and we have to be courageous enough to address that. So I've spoken a lot already this morning. And right now, I want to go into some unconventional case studies. And I'm going to start with our first interview snippet with Wendy van Eck. And I asked her the question, what was the moment when she realized that her conventional career path was no longer working for her? You are going to learn a lot from this session, so please enjoy Wendy.
So, I mean, even within that, I could have stayed in a conventional path in TV. For 7 years, I did really stay in a conventional path in TV. I was a scriptwriter who became a producer, who became a marketing manager, who went back to production. I produced live TV shows every night. I worked as a director. I had the opportunity to become the head of the channel eventually, which was a DSTV channel. I then later started another DSTV channel. I had that option to really stay in that pathway that I was going in, and I was growing at a very fast rate. I had a lot of people who were older than me in the industry who felt like, how was I getting ahead at such a young age? But then I decided that I was bored, which maybe isn't the best reason to leave a job, but I am very much the type of person who likes to try new things. And for me, trying new things and growing is very important. So when I was in the TV industry and I was learning new stuff, so I'm learning a scriptwriter, I'm learning to be a producer, I'm learning to be a director, I'm learning to run a channel, I'm learning to start a channel from scratch. For me, those are all challenges. They were things that excited me. Once it became, I've now done this for 2 years and I'm doing the same thing every day, I needed a new challenge. And so for me, I don't know if there's necessarily been a moment, to come back and answer your question, where I've been like, okay, I need another pathway. I think a lot of it is built into my personality, which is like, I need a challenge. And yeah, I left TV at that point because I needed a new challenge. So,
Wendy, I can definitely identify with you in that one. I think it's the distinction between, are you an entrepreneur or are you entrepreneurial, right? So you can develop entrepreneurial thinking in a job, but there are certain personality types. I think you and I are similar, because when I was working in universities, after doing annual reports for 2 years, I thought, well, I want to do something new. And after doing fundraising and maybe getting a certain target, like, okay, what else can I do? I've got this down. So it's almost like there's a hunger to grow and the hunger for a skill set. So is that kind of when you realize, but I can actually design my career path? I'm getting bored of this. I mean, you kind of being very blasé about your TV work, which is quite impressive, but for you it was like, let's do something else. Is that kind of the point where you're like, how can I design my career? What do I want to do? Tell us more about that.
So I think really becoming intentional about how I designed my career came around the time that I decided to leave the TV industry. My husband and I got married at some point during this, and my husband and I decided that we wanted to design our lives together. So he works in an industry where a lot of the time he would need to be overseas and traveling. And so there was an option where we would possibly be able to live overseas for 2 years. And then it was a case of, well, how would we do this? Like, I wouldn't want to just go live there and have nothing to do. I wouldn't be able to get a visa to work. And so then we started thinking about, well, what kind of career could I do that would allow me to work overseas? What kind of jobs could I do? And I then at that point went, okay, what I need is a non-location based career. And that really also suited a lot of the values that I have. A lot of the values I have are around like freedom to move, to own my own time, to do my own things, to not be restricted by things around me. And because of that, I started while I was at TV volunteering for a nonprofit organization who I knew would be willing to allow me to work overseas if my husband went, because of various factors. And so I volunteered for them about 15 to 20 hours a week on top of my full-time job in TV. So that's why when I said I've always been entrepreneurial and hardworking, those two things have gone together. So I was volunteering 15 to 20 hours a week for a year. And after that year, they said to me, we have a position opening as a marketing manager. Would you like to take it? I then said yes, because it fits in a lot of the things that where I wanted to go. And I took that position and they said to me, oh, but we don't have space in our office for you. You're going to have to work from home. I went, yes, because this fitted within the role, like the career path that I was trying to carve out for myself, being non-location based. So the fact that they actually accelerated it for me was just an advantage, because it then gave me the opportunity, which a lot of people have now discovered during COVID. So this was back in 2012, I think, when working remotely wasn't really a thing, especially in South Africa. And even though we were in the same city, I wasn't in the office all the time. I'd go in once a week really for like a weekly check-in, and the rest of the time I worked from home. And it gave me the opportunity to build up trust and credibility with the organization that I was working with, that I didn't need to be in a space to actually get my work done. And then that gave me the freedom to later, we ended up not moving overseas for 2 years, but I moved from Johannesburg to Port Elizabeth, where I currently live. And I continued in that role for about 2 years before I decided actually that I wanted to change once again. And I then changed and became an independent consultant that now consults to all kinds of, to various different nonprofits. So I don't know if I managed to answer your question there.
You have answered my question in wonderful ways. Actually, what I got from what you shared now is that you were bold enough, maybe just because you were bored, or you just like, well, I'm going to keep trying and keep moving forward with what I know I want to do. You've actually found a way to decide that work has to fit into my life, and versus what we know is the conventional way of fitting my life around work. So I think that's pretty phenomenal. And also, just as you kept taking a step, you kind of said, well, I want to go this direction, not always maybe knowing where the path is going to lead, but actually having things fall into place. Like, for example, the remote work, moving to PE. I want to just also then touch on what you said about you and your husband. And I think this is something I also found very interesting, is that you both have a shared vision to live an unconventional life. I think if maybe one of you was more kind of go and get a permanent job, stay in this job, we need the security, it might not have worked. So how important is it to have your core relationships support this journey into the unknown?
I think definitely having them supported is vital. Like you don't necessarily need to be in a relationship like my husband and I, where we both are doing a similar kind of thing. But having somebody who's actually like, yes, I believe in you, and that no matter what happens, we'll figure this out, makes a huge difference. For me, I think in some ways he's probably pushed me more than I would have. I do tend to err more on the side of safety and security. And I maybe wouldn't have made some of the steps that I made as soon as I did. Or, for example, when I left the nonprofit that I used to work for, I left with no plan. Like I had no plan, no real clients, and so that was terrifying. And so without his actual support saying, do you know what, we don't have any plan, but we'll figure out how to live on one salary until you are able to bring in an income, really made a huge difference. But then I think it's been like mutual support, because last year during COVID, I was in a position where I didn't lose any of my work because I actually work with a lot of public health organizations, so they were needed more than ever. But he lost 90% of his work in 24 hours. And so then the reverse was happening, where it was now actually me stepping up and saying to him, like, yeah, we don't have a plan and we don't know what we're going to do. And we're back to living on one salary, but we've done this before and we can do it again. And so just having those people in your life that are like, I've got your back, is definitely necessary, because it is like a lonely thing, really, to be not doing the conventional thing.
So I'm sure that was very insightful. Wendy has a lot of wisdom to share. The second question I asked Wendy, well, I've asked her many questions, but the second one I asked her that I took out for this webinar was, she's actually has a lot of amazing global clients. And so she's been able to really shift that. And so I wanted to know, how did she secure her global clients? And in the session, we actually also discovered what's the secret formula to developing an unconventional career path. So pay close attention to that one. So I want to touch a bit more on this revenue aspect. What I find really interesting about your work, and I'm yet to get there, but you're going to help me because you're always a further along the path than me, is how did you secure your global clients? Because you work primarily with global clients, so it's great to be earning in dollars and euros and whatever else versus rand. How did you secure those global clients, and what did you have to do to maybe adjust your current workspace to adapt to their needs?
Yes, I think two things there is, I think sometimes people can look at somebody like me and they don't realize that I'm a lot further down the path than they are. So if you've just graduated, chances of you finding global clients is probably going to be quite difficult. I think there is a lot of value in actually trying to get into a traditional workplace for some period of time. And a lot of the skills that I have that then gave me access into global clients were because of the work that I did in TV as well as in the nonprofit later. So that span, which was probably about 10 years of more formal career experience, actually then gave me the platform to take a more unusual direction, because a lot of the work that I did in the nonprofit, it was across time zones, across regions. We were connected with a nonprofit in Chicago, and that gave me the skills that then when I went out on my own, I discovered that I was actually in a very small niche of people who had that experience. And so then when I was speaking to nonprofits and they were looking for people like me, I was able to say, well, I actually have this experience. I've worked across time zones. I've worked with teams in remote locations. I've done remote work, as I say, when I was starting out on my own, and this was 2017. We hadn't had COVID. People were still a little bit scared of remote work. And so all of those things actually gave me the platform to do it. So I think knowing where you want to go is great, but then also realizing that sometimes you actually are going to need the experience that comes through a formal work environment, through learning how to navigate conflict in a formal work environment. There's so many things that those kind of environments when you're not on your own teach you that you don't get as an individual, kind of just navigating stuff on their own. I see it, I'm going to give my brother as an example. He's only ever worked in very small organizations of less than 3 people, so him and 2 others. And he lacks some of the corporate skills or those kind of skills that you would need, and he knows he does, because he hasn't had that. So I think don't be scared. Don't listen to this today and be like, oh, well, now I'm not going to work at a corporate, or I'm not going to work in a bigger organization. I think there's a lot to learn there that you can take into things. And then, in terms of some of the adjustments that I've had to make, especially for the global clients, that's been around things like global clients don't understand load shedding. So having to actually, we're investing in solar now because the load shedding has been increasing. And so we're investing in solar so we don't have to explain to our clients, sorry, we've got load shedding, we can't join a call, or we can't do those kind of things. We've been working with UPSs for a while, but now we need to move to the next level. So I think it's also just, if you have a global mindset, you then need to start thinking, how can I make sure that I am professional on the same level as my counterparts, which in some ways are your competition, in a foreign country.
Wendy, I think what I got from that is your kind of formula to the unconventional pathway, right? So I'm going to read it out based on my interpretation. You tell me if I've got it correctly. The first stage is exploration. So kind of testing out a few things. Do I want to study this? Oh, no, I don't want to study this. Let me figure out where to go. And then your second stage is growth. So I'm growing in a specific career path, for example, TV. Okay, I'm bored. What's the next thing? So I'm growing my skill sets. Then the third stage is discovery. So actually, I want to work in this kind of environment. I want to do this type of work that's different from what I've done before. And the fourth stage would be mastery, which is where you're at the moment of I can now actually connect with clients that I want to work with. I do the work that I find engaging and interesting and exciting, and I can say no to work that I don't want to do. But now this formula, Wendy, based on what you've experienced and myself, is a 20 to 25-year process, right? You start out in your early career, and then you shift into your mid-career, which is where we're at the moment. So I've also been working for 23 years now. First job at the age of 17, straight out of my high school, studying part-time, doing what we can. So I think that's what I want to bring across, is that you can't avoid this process. There's no short circuit. There's no shortcut to this process. You have to develop character. You have to also kind of allow yourself the time to figure out, who am I? What kind of work makes me come alive, and how do I follow that? Did I get that correctly?
Yeah, I'm very impressed. I would never have been able to put it into that kind of stages. The one thing that I would add to it is that I feel like that cycle continues all the time. I don't think, like, I wouldn't say like now I'm in mastery, so I don't explore anymore. 2 years ago, I went and did a master's in a completely different field because I wanted to explore. I wanted options. I wanted new things. Right now, I'm busy learning 2 languages, doing a drawing course, and another online course because I want to explore and I want to do those growth and things like that. And I want to have future options for areas that I need to become a master in, especially nowadays. I mean, we're living longer. I don't expect that in 20 years' time, I'm going to stop working. I expect that I probably have another 40 years worth of work ahead of me, as scary as it is. I'd love to retire young. But that means like I'm already actually starting to think of, oh, if normal retirement age is at 65, then what are the skills that I need to be developing now and exploring now that I can have begun to master at 65 that are going to be valuable at that stage? So I think the only thing I change about the model that you mentioned there is that you can, at any point, you can start that explore phase again, and it can carry on to mastery, even if you are mastering another area.
I love that, Wendy. You just described the epitome of lifelong learning, and also touching on the fact that even the idea of retirement is shifting, because my husband and I are both of the opinion that retirement is a man-made concept and not one that we ascribe to, because how do you retire from your life? Once you found the work that makes you come alive, thing you're passionate about, how do you stop being that person? How do you stop doing it? So I love that you're really thinking about, at that stage, what will I need to learn? How will I need to grow? And I think the fact that you are doing all these things at the same time and continually building that, you're keeping your brain alert and active. And so by the time you get to 65, that brain is still going to be strong, right? And so I think that's an awesome thing that you've added. Thank you so much for that. I hope you enjoyed those snippets from Wendy. The full interview with Wendy is going to be available on our YouTube channel, so please make sure you check that out. So now this is for those people who are maybe starting out in their career paths at the moment and they're considering unconventional approaches. Okay, so maybe you think, well, I do have a degree, I do have a job right now, but I really am passionate about creating content and becoming a social media influencer. And that is my side hustle, and I want to grow into that. So in this upcoming snippet, we interview the founders of Create ZA, Sheldon and Ten. The full interview is also on our YouTube channel. But in this snippet, I asked them the questions: how are Gen Zs approaching the world of work? Because we know that they are looking at the pathway that was laid before them, and they're thinking, no, I'm going to go left here. And then we also asked the question, how long does it take to become an overnight success as a social media influencer? So this is going to be fun. So guys, the reason why I want to interview you today on this webinar about exploring unconventional pathways into the world of work is because I met Ten while he was working at his previous day job. And that's also where Sheldon was working. I didn't meet Sheldon there. But what I find really interesting is that Ten, you made the choice to go into this, and Sheldon didn't really have a choice. He kind of had to go into it. But what you are interacting with right now is just a new generation coming into the workplace, our Gen Zs in South Africa. We know that youth unemployment is massively challenging in our country. Just because you have a university degree doesn't guarantee that you will have a job. So I want to ask both of you, because you've been exposed to young people who are trying to find an unconventional pathway into the world of work, what would you say is the current prevailing perception around the opportunities in terms of the conventional pathway into the world of work, which is get a job? What is their attitude and feeling about that? Because Ten, when we met, we discussed how you felt like you were let down. You were told, go to university, get a job, and your life's going to be amazing. And then it wasn't. So what are young people feeling about work?
Sheldon, do you want to start or should I?
Sure, I'll go for it. I think initially, people tend to have side hustles more often than not. In the industry that we're in with content creators, you find more and more people finding, they're actually earning a bit of money off of their social media platforms. And then there's two sides to it, because sometimes, in many cases, the sustainability of that is how consistent you are. It translates to how consistent you are, and that is something that I think this generation of people battles with a lot. Consistency over long term. But I think with combined consistency and utilizing side streams of income, that definitely a viable outcome or a means of living.
Ten, your take on that?
Yeah. All right. So your question specifically mentioned convention. And
Yes.
I think that Gen Zs, more than any other generation before us, are the best equipped to live in this time because they break convention.
Thank you so much for saying that, Ten. Thank you so much for saying that. I think we don't tell young people that enough, that you are equipped to handle the challenges we're facing. Please continue.
Gen Zs grew up in a time where technology was growing rapidly. I was busy having a conversation with my sister the other day, how when I was in primary school, we weren't allowed to have our phones at school. And by the time I got to university, which is what, 6-7 years between that, your phones, your tablets, your laptops, you were using them in class to actually learn with. And so Gen Z grew up in this time where technology changes so rapidly. The rules keep changing so quickly that you need to adapt, and you just need to be honest. You can't be talking iPhone 3 technology when we're on the iPhone 12. And it's not that long ago, but so much has changed, so much has been baked into it, that their minds are equipped to constantly be breaking convention, because technology and the way that people understand technology is constantly breaking convention. So I think more than any other generation, yeah, I think they do break convention quite a lot. They look at tradition with a little bit of disdain. I think they do look down on the older ways of doing things, because they've seen that either those old ways aren't working anymore because there's a new way of doing it, or they already have the mindset that there will be a new way of doing it. And so if I don't get a university degree, it's fine. There will be a new way for me to learn. there's online courses, there's free online courses. Heck, there's even YouTube where you can learn everything that you need to know about a particular skill. Okay, maybe not being a doctor. Don't learn how to be a doctor on YouTube, please. But yeah, I think they're quite well equipped to be in this time.
So Tim, you mentioned so many things about Gen Zs and young people that I want to touch on, but I think that's going to be another whole webinar. But just is the fact that they are able to adapt to rapidly changing innovation. So they can innovate. They want things, I mean, they're used to things being fast paced. So they might get into the workplace and have all this energy and ideas, and they actually can't implement that. And that can be frustrating. So often the temptation is, well, my channel, my YouTube channel, or my kind of social media platforms that I'm trying to make money on, maybe that's a shortcut into me earning a livelihood, and I can then leave this dead end boring job. So let's ask the question that many young people will have. How long does it take to become an overnight success and make money off YouTube or any other public platform? Anyone can answer that
Sheldon,
question.
I think we both have our own takes on it. I'll just say mine really quickly. I think it is possible to make a living based on your content creation. You can be a content creator and make a living out of it. It is completely possible, but it is really bleeping hard. And I think that's something that a lot of young people that see these now up and coming YouTube stars, they think, oh, I can do that. That's easy. I just talk to my camera or whatever. I've got a camera, you know? But like Sheldon was saying, the consistency, hard work, all of those old school traditional things, those values, that's where they then come into play. Is yes, you can approach things in a new, unconventional way, but the same values stick through. You know, you need to push through, you need to go through. I've seen quite a few of my friends become like very successful. I think in the past year alone, Sheldon will confirm, we've had people that have come to our events or friends of ours who have been on TV, who have been on the covers of magazines, who've been on news shows. So they're making it, and they're making enough to get by. But knowing these people and knowing more about their personal lives, I can tell you that YouTube alone isn't sustaining them. And you being on TV doesn't mean that you're making a lot of money. You need to be clever about how you can use your personal brand, and that is what's going to make you money. Your personal brand is going to open up webinars, seminars, content for you to sell, workshops, those kinds of things.
And I think also, in the terms of overnight success, I think many content creators would find that concept problematic, because especially out here in South Africa, it's a sustained battle for many creators. That is, I don't know anyone who's earned an overnight, boom, and they're already earning through the channels they create. It normally is a result of really strategic brand planning and where you're going to fit in and getting an audience, building that, and then eventually what might be misconceived as overnight success is when you get that first paycheck, YouTube builds up a certain amount of money and you need to meet certain criteria. Then you get your first paycheck, and that's normally a lump sum. And then from there, it distributes and you start building up from there. So yeah, it is normally a journey, definitely a journey. And also, like Ten said, there are multiple platforms. For example, some creators like YouTubers who started out with him about 10 years ago branched off into a platform that made more sense for them as a dancer on TikTok, and now they get multiple brand deals frequently and paid partnerships just through TikTok, the platform. And what you could also consider, what people might say overnight success is, on a platform like YouTube or TikTok, there is the virality aspect where something can blow up and you can be seen by a lot of sponsors or a lot of people, or the people you want to be seen by. And there are different standards of overnight success. But yeah, I think the healthiest definition of success is just the consistent, you invest in quality content creation, brand strategy, and then, I mean, ultimately reaping a side stream of income from that, a consistent one as well.
Thank you, guys. So a lot that's been shared. What I'm really picking up from what you both shared is that young people need to adopt a kind of classic contemporary approach to work. Classic in the sense of you need to have character, a strong work ethic, because it's going to be a slog. You can't avoid that work is work, right? But the contemporary approach is, how do I become someone of value? How do I actually find what I'm good at, my talent, my gift that I have that's innate, whether it's dancing or cooking or whatever else, and how can I showcase that to the world? But behind that, understanding that it's not just I put a camera on and I suddenly have money coming in. It's not going to work that way. So even if you are working in a job, that can teach you how to work with people. That can teach you how to be on time. That can teach you very core skill sets that you will need when you have your own gig. So
True.
different aspects of it, either you're freelancing or you having gig work or contract work or temporary work, or even just kind of building the side hustles, which both of you had, and then transitioning into, okay, this is now what I do every day, 9 to 5. All right, guys. So that was just a snippet of my interview with Jen and Sheldon. They are on the call today. So please type in your questions and we'll get to them at the end of the webinar. It is really phenomenal to meet young people, to know young people who are out there and actually just pounding the pavement, doing the hard stuff, growing, learning, and bringing people together. So this is the real world. I think you already know this. It's not as easy as our parents have told us it's going to be. Just go to university, get a job, and life's going to be okay. This is where we're growing our self-awareness about who am I in the world? What do I still need to grow in? How can I actually create my own career path and start setting my own goals in terms of what I want to develop? Okay. So I want you to ask yourself these questions. We started this webinar with these questions. What is my treasure? What do I really feel like I want to contribute to the world? Like when I have my last moments, I know it sounds morbid to think of it that way, but we're all going to face that. What do I want to feel like I've accomplished my purpose in life? What is my treasure that I want to share with the world? The next one is, what opportunities can I pursue? Some of you already are talking about how personal branding is important. So you're very aware of actually owning your voice, owning your space, making a contribution. What opportunities do I see for that happening? Nikki says, my treasure is people empowerment. Nikki, I feel you on that one. That's totally mine as well. And what work makes my heart sing? So you heard from Wendy's story and my own story. It takes a long time to really get to your sweet spot. But the journey to get there, the 10 to 15, 20-year journey to get there, means that you are acquiring skill sets, you're growing your character, and you're actually building a life of meaning. Think about the people that we admire who are at now the pinnacle of their success. They are in their late 40s, early 50s. So it's a career path, means that it's for your life. So often we look at what other people have achieved, maybe at 21, and we think, well, if I'm not a billionaire at 21, then I haven't made it yet. And this is what the challenge that young people have, but also just any kind of age group, is we struggle with failure. We think that by now we should have things figured out. By now we should have our lives sorted out. And the thing is, learning how to fail well and fail forward is part of success. Sunette says that her treasure is helping young professionals to unlock potential. Again, these are people that we're all connecting on this call. Elin says, I'm doing what makes my heart sing. It's not the easiest thing to build a business. However, it is the most fulfilling experience. Thank you for your comments, guys. It's so true. Jim Rohn says, the major value in life is not what you get. The major value in life is who you become. If you are successful, but everyone doesn't want to spend time with you, then you're not that successful, because you're not actually building a life around you. You're just building a business or you're building a career, but you have to think about it holistically. So as part of our webinar offering for the next 14 days, we want to help you, if you need help, to figure out, how do I get to my next stage? So we've got two options. There's the coaching option, where we want to help you to do a three sessions, very short package, where we look at the relationships, career, finances offering, and we say, how do we help you to figure out what's your next step? What is your purpose statement? How can you uncover your treasure? How can that grow? And then the second option that we have for you is an online mini course, which will be available in the next week or so. And it's really about how do I design an unconventional career. So we look at the things that we're learning from Wendy and Ten and Sheldon, real life people with real life career paths and real challenges that they've overcome. Whether you are facing retrenchment or you have been retrenched or you're currently in a career transition, we want to help you to deal with your holistic development, your relationships, your career, your finances. And this is going to be a 3-hour, well, 9-hour in total online course that is also going to be offered at a limited discount. So we're now at the end of the webinar. I did promise you that I wanted to finish by 22. Quarter two. It's 5 minutes over, but I just want to ask, is there any questions that you have that we can perhaps answer? Because we have Wendy and we have Ten and Sheldon online. So any questions, guys? You're allowed to unmute yourself and ask the question. Questions, comments? Andrea says, amazing session. Thank you for joining in, Andrea. Okay, if there's no questions, we're going to end right now. But again, the full interviews with Wendy and Ten and Sheldon are available on our YouTube site and our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in today. I was very nervous when I did my first session, but you've made it very fun, and I see that there is value for doing this. So we're going to keep doing it every month. I'm going to keep showcasing awesome South Africans that I'm meeting, that are passionate, that want to help you to grow, and stay tuned.